It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
Hey guys, how is it going? And welcome to the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. It is Thursday, May 2nd, and so happy for you joining us. We are ready to start another day together with the Lord. So subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So today we have an exciting podcast for you. We have sermons in the sky, QNA Thursday word study, and of course commentaries, updates, and news on what is happening around the world in this history today. Whew. All right, everyone, how are you doing? It is a Thursday for all of us, a Thursday morning. For me, it's still Wednesday afternoon. I just drove for about 3 hours from Incheon back here to Kumsan, back in the cafe where Sunsim has that sign. Yeah, it's just comfortable for me here. But interestingly, the room that I usually use to record, I can't use it today again. But the cool thing was there's two members in that room. So I greeted them, said hi to them and stuff like that too. But very thankful, very grateful that I have a place to record, and the owner is cool with me recording too. And on top of it, this cafe has like extra rooms that you can use, so you can have some privacy and stuff, and you're not like in everyone's face where they're all looking at me because I'm speaking English and stuff like that too. But I hope you guys have had a wonderful and awesome week thus far. We're getting into the tail of the week, not just today, but every week we have Q&A Thursday. So get those questions ready and send it to me whenever you can. And if you haven't yet, leave a like and comment to build our community. Just super happy for everyone joining us every weekday on the Morning Star Drive. So let's get up and support each other each and every day. So this week's Sunday message title is, I know how the work ends eventually. Things will work out and you will receive according to your deeds. And of course, that second title is Learn from Me. All right, so it is Wednesday over here for me. I just finished the live stream about a few hours ago, and super thankful for everyone joining in, and always super thankful for your support, especially the fun, lively, amazing chat room. Like, that is my favorite thing of all. Like, I almost feel like I don't want to go live and I want to keep pre-recording so that I can just be part of the chat room, because I think that's one of the funnest places you can be in. Yeah, it was just good to see a lot of faces there. We had a good 30 people come out to today's live stream, and some new people came out too. I was in Incheon listening to it with Daniel's younger brother. His name is Joshua. So he had a day off because it's Labor Day over here in Korea. Is it Labor Day in other places too? I think, I know Malaysia has Labor Day on yesterday also. But is there anyone else that has Labor Day? I know in Canada and America, it's the first Monday of September. The first Monday of September is Labor Day weekend. So I know it's going to be pretty early this year because there's going to be an American Providence soccer tournament in late August going into the Labor Day weekend. So that should be quite fun also. Man, it's been crazy driving once again. Last night I was driving until 1 a.m. and it was just from Incheon to Seoul and Seoul back to Incheon, and that was long. Like, going from Incheon to Myeongdong, that's where I went to go meet the other members and some friends from Malaysia. That in itself was like an hour and 10 minutes. But then on top of that, finding parking was ridiculous. Like, I think one of my new life rules is do not drive in Seoul. Like, I think that's a life rule because it's kind of there's too many cars there at all times of the day. There's never not having traffic. It was just so tiring because without traffic it takes about 30 minutes. It said about 31 minutes to get from Incheon to Myeongdong, but it takes an hour and 10 because of the traffic during the day and stuff like that. But I got there in an hour and 10 minutes, right? So that was, I got there, in that time, but it took me like 40 minutes to find parking. Like, it's gross, and it's grossly expensive. So what does that mean? So I ended up parking at a department store because we're meeting to have dinner there. And the department store, guess how much the parking is? Okay? The parking is 50,000 won per hour. And I was there for 5 hours. Okay, so if you do the math, it's like $200 US for 5 hours of parking there. Okay. Now, the reason why I was able to park there is because that we were eating at a restaurant inside the department store. So what happens is because you ate there, you get like a certain amount of hours for free. And I was there for so I ended up only paying 12,000 won. But, for those of you guys in Malaysia, 12,000 won is like 50 ringgit. 50 ringgit. It's 10 ringgit per hour. Is that okay for Malaysia? 10 ringgit per hour. That's still expensive, I think. 10 ringgit per hour is really expensive. But it was just really a fun time because the thing that made it really fun and cool was it was kind of an MSD community meeting. What does that mean? It means like I posted on Instagram that I was in Wolmingdong, I was in Kumsan, I was in Incheon, and then I got a text from a good friend in Taiwan. And this guy and blessed family, him and his wife and his daughter, were already in Wolmingdong, and then they came down to Seoul. And they are, I think I talked about them before. They're the ones that actually kind of like translate the MSD, puts it into a one-page blog and, summarizes it, puts their own opinions and stuff on it too. And they put it on like a Facebook blog, right? And it's only for members. So it's a private site and stuff like that too. So when I see them, they are like, I think they religiously listen to it because he's always not transcribing, but making the like segment 1 and 2 and stuff like that into like these one-page summaries. But it was really cool because he's like, oh, you're with Pastor David Baker. I was like, oh yeah, I'm staying at his house. Like, hey, let's meet, because he also wanted to meet Pastor Baker because he's doing the Sermons in the Sky now, and the Sermons in the Sky also, Pastor Baker has like such a rich storehouse of stories with Sunstream. It's really amazing. Like. Yeah, so it was always a Taiwan Blessed Family. It was me, and then, of course, like Pastor Baker, who is a American Blessed Family. And we just had a meeting, went out to eat, and then went to a cafe. We were out to we're together for a good 4 or 5 hours, right? So it was just really fun. Of course, having the baby there was really fun too. But these are all connections for MSD. So that was like an MSD community connection. Right? And I hope that we can have more of these conversations to connect with more people also. And, I like it because MSD is the community that we can use, that we can all enjoy together. So, if you guys ever see me, or if you guys are in the same vicinity as me, you guys can go ahead and just, you can call me on Instagram, or you can text me and just say, hey, we're in the area. We'd love to meet up or whatever. And if I have the time, definitely I will meet up. Like, sometimes I won't be able to have the time anyways. But if you do, you guys can just let me know. If there's people that, I can grab other people too. We can just have a time. Say, like right now, I'm in Kumsan and I'll be here until Saturday. Oh, by the way, this weekend's going to be crazy because it's Children's Day on Sunday. There's a big event on Saturday at Wolmingdong, but everyone's been telling me traffic is nuts during that time. So especially like Friday, Saturday is crazy going out of Seoul, and then probably Sunday night to Monday is going to be crazy going back to Seoul. So I thought to myself, is like the best time for me to go is most likely Saturday night, right? Or it's either Saturday night or going back like Sunday morning or Sunday early afternoon, just so that because I know that Monday is going to be a holiday for everyone too. But it's kind of cool. But yeah, I got to make sure that I catch my flight on Monday. Like a couple years ago, Pastor Dave Baker was telling me that there was a time where they didn't know it was Children's Day, and they were caught in traffic, and from where their house in Incheon to Wolmingdong, not even able to get to Wolmingdong. It took 11 hours just from Seoul, Incheon to Daejeon. It took 11 hours, right? And so I'm like, I don't want to get caught up into that. So hopefully I'll be able to find the best bus time to be able to go back to Incheon and then have service on Sunday, spend some time together, and then go out after that. So, you guys know John Wick? John Wick is like, it's Chris over there in New Zealand. He had a dream. He had a dream about. It wasn't about me, but I was in the dream, and I'm pretty sure that this is a dream more for him and not for me. But he said in his dream, I was at his house to do a live stream, but for some reason, I wanted to set up on the path to the house. Right, it's kind of narrow and undeveloped, and then Chris basically just helped me set up down there on the path, the undeveloped path. But I helped. Then Chris helped adjust this wooden makeshift seat, and then I said that I wanted a bouquet of flowers because my brother was coming to town, and it was kind of like a really unexpected choice for me to ask for flowers, right? And they were just flowers. They were like very common plants. And then Chris's mom helped, and they found some flowers and stuff. But I found that to be an interesting dream. The thing that I see, that from what I see from my perspective, because I don't know what Chris's perspective is, but Chris is someone who's very diligent in supporting the channel. Like, he is there commenting like crazy. He's there in every live stream. He's always there, right? And he's someone who's very, very supportive for this internet ministry also. But the one thing that the one thing that makes me feel like this is real is he said that I wanted to set up the podcast in a narrow and undeveloped area. And I think this undeveloped, narrow area is probably going to be like internet ministry, right? Internet ministry is definitely an undeveloped area, and it's a place where, it's kind of narrow because it's not really broad and open yet, and a lot of people are just starting to do it anyways. So I kind of see that as something that I definitely want to, I think that has to do with me in the dream. And I know that Chris is someone that always helps. And because he's the one that's always helping, I think that it makes sense that he's helping to develop the path. Not develop the path, but like at least set me up, right? So that is something that I thought was kind of cool. That it was a cool dream. I don't know what it means on his side though, but probably the thing that is most interesting to me would be, what is my role and what do I symbolize for him in the dream? Right? I don't know what it is. It could be like maybe his mom helping and my brother helping. Like, this is going to be something that will help them to come to Providence or something along that line. I don't know. Maybe they'll have to start listening to the Rebel Pastor. I have no idea. But the way Sunseam says it is, your reality, your dreams are fulfilled in your reality. Right? So I hope it's something that we can really, really understand much better too. But it's a dream. Dreams are really... Dreams are very, very interesting also, okay? There's a comment that Karen gave, and I thought this comment was really cool. It says, one thing that you always, this is what Karen said, one thing that you always seem to mention is how you get to meet various members and have chats with them. Something that we don't have here in Canada, and it's the one thing I truly long for in Providence. Hence why traveling is so much fun and talking with other members, those deep and fun conversations not everybody likes, but I wish it was way better on this side of the world. What I would say is it's probably something that's not just Canada. It's just any small country is going to be like that. Any small country is going to have difficulty. Any small country is not going to have a ton of people. Like if I go to come somewhere like Korea, there's so many people, but 99% of the people I'm not going to meet. I can't. 99% of the people I can't meet because they're all working, they're busy, there's families, they're on campus, they're doing this and that. So I'm just not going to meet them anyways. But because there's such a large amount of people, that 1% is actually pretty big. That I'll always have a person to talk to, whatever city that I go to, right? So I don't think it's just a Canadian thing. I think it's just not common. Number one, it's not common when your churches are small. And number two, it's not common for people to travel as much as I do. It's just not common. It's just not. So, but I do agree with Karen. Having these conversations with many different people really opens up your eyes. It kind of widens your eyes to how God works in each country and in so many different ways. And I think it's even more crazier. Like what I see is like, wow, this is so amazing because I hear all these people's testimonies. And the thing that's really shocking to me is that Every country I go to, it's different people, different cultures and everything else, but God is still working in that culture, in the way that culture works. You know what I mean? And I look at that and it's like, wow, it's really a miracle how great God really is. And, every time when I talk about MSD community, when I talk about meeting people from all around the world, I would say that just meeting this many people around the world reminds me of the animal kingdom in Isaiah chapter 11, verses 6 through 9. It says a lion will eat straw like the ox. And I like that because Sanseep says that means they're going to eat the word, right? They're all eating the same food, which means they eat the same word, right? And it's because I can go to any country. We all eat from the same word. We are all connected by the same history. So it's super easy to talk with each other. You can ask the exact same question to 1,000 people in 200 different countries, and everyone understands, like, hey, how'd you come to this history? And everyone's got their testimony and their story too. So it's really the animal kingdom that's being made the ideal world. And I hope it's something that we can really open our hearts to and understand even more. Oh, so, I had this very interesting conversation with, I'm not sure if you guys know her. She is she does the editing on the channel for the Rebel Pastor, and she's awesome, right? So she's someone very, very talented, does so many different things, right? And we had a very interesting conversation that was sparked just by her thoughts, say wanting to do leadership, or like what's her thoughts on leadership and stuff too. And for me, for myself, the more and more, because I've been through it before. I've been through leadership. I've been through head leading. I've been through department leading. I've been in small churches. I've been in pioneering churches too. I am just so thankful for everyone who goes into leadership. I am very, very thankful. It's something that cannot be done by an ordinary person, and it cannot be fulfilled with just ordinary effort. Everyone that goes into it, you got to understand, when it comes to leadership in Providence, the amount of sacrifice, the amount of diligence, effort, and love, power, all these things, it's incredible how much you need. It really is. And that's why Sanseep even said that, whenever God gives you a mission, he'll give you the power to do that mission. And as a head leader, the things I did as a head leader, I would say incredible. Like, I can't even do them right now, right? Like, the amazing diligence of pre-dawn, and what time, never being late for 3 years. Just I was late once, and the rest of the times for 3.5 years, never late. I think that's power, right? And there's so many things that I did, but there's something that we came into, we started talking about was something that is talked about a lot in the former faith, and this is something called, this is the calling, right? There's a calling that people get to become someone who runs for ministry, to become a head leader, to become a pastor, to become someone who runs ministry in the church. And we have to understand that because church leading is that difficult, it is something where God is choosing people, and there's a calling that comes to you. It's a very difficult path, but it's so rewarding and inspiring when you hear the stories of what these leaders have gone through. The calling is something that is undeniable. It is something where you truly feel God pulling you towards the ministry, right? There's this one verse that really reminds me of leadership, and the way Sanseep put it is John chapter 21, verse 18. And it says, "Very truly I tell you, when you were younger, you dressed yourself and went where you wanted. But when you are old, you will stretch out your hands and someone else will dress you and lead you where you do not want to go." When you're young, you're carefree, you do what you want. But when you're older, when you become a leader, when you get into leadership, what happens? Dressing yourself and someone else dressing you is about actions. Right? And when you become a leader, you sacrifice, and you sacrifice for the people, and you take paths of suffering that you may not want to do. It's not an easy path. It's the life of a leader in this history. It is one of the greatest things that you can do. And it's not a job. It's not a thankful job. It's not a job that receives a ton of glory. You actually you put in more than you receive, but you receive so much more inspiration, love, and power from God. You really do. Now, the thing that we started discussing was, hey, you know that not many people take this path. It's actually very, very few. This is why the calling doesn't go to many people. It goes to few people who actually will get it. So there's going to be three types of people. There's going to be one that gets the calling. There's going to be one that's compelled by others to do it. And some feel compelled by the situation. Like, oh, there's no one doing it now. I gotta stand up for this history kind of thing, right? But very few, I really feel that have the calling. And right now, because in most countries, province is very small, there's going to be more instances of people, they're going to step into leadership because there's not many people stepping in. Or people who are compelled by others, where leaders say, oh, I think you're good for leadership, right? But in a lot of cases, it's because it's what we have. It's all we have. So I think in the future, when province really grows, kind of like Korea as it is right now, there's going to be lineups of people who are called. And it's still not going to be big compared to the whole, but there's going to be a lot more people who are compelled. There will be. And they're going to be prepared. They're going to be made ready to lead countries, churches, and departments. So like I said, right now it's still quite baby stage in most countries. So we make do. And we do our best with what we have. And it's commendable and amazing what people are doing right now to take the responsibility and lead churches, right? And there's, like I said, it is so necessary. It is so important. So much respect to everyone who is leading, everyone who has led in the past. And the further we go in the past, the harder and harder it was. You know what I mean? And, a lot of us are still in a developing country. So we need to realize it's going to be hard because we're still in development. We're going to have difficulties. And it's not just, not the difficulties of just evangelism and living the life of faith, but the difficulties from just developing our province culture, our life in each country. It's just not easy. We haven't reached the mature stage of a proper organization, so it's not really professional yet. And that's part of the condition that we are setting for future generations so that we can be more developed later on. So, yeah, if you look at it just from the negative point of view, there is a ton to complain about. But more than complaining, we really need to proactively take action towards something better. And I think this is the key. I think for me, the frustration comes when we know there's a problem, but there isn't something that's active or deliberate to make things better. So, like for instance, if you see leadership trying to move towards something, putting in new policies or new things, new organizations to make it better, it's not as frustrating because at least we know we're moving somewhere. But if things are still the same, with the same results in each church every single year, and I'm not talking about just the results of evangelism, but also overall happiness, the growth of members, the growth of faith, the individuals, departments, the entire church. If that remains the same after a year, then we know that nothing is changed and we're not really changing, right? But the one thing I do want to say is this. If we want to make things better, sometimes we have to kind of look at a much bigger macro view. What does that mean? We can't just look back at the year we went through. We just can't do that. We have to look longer than that. So what does that mean? So let's just say that we only look at what we did for 2022. We look back and say, oh, no, it wasn't very good. So what are we going to do? Well, then we say, you know what? This year, let's work harder. And that's all we say is, let's work harder. We're going to do better next year. But that's not giving you a full picture. I would say look back at the last 5 years. And if you look at the last 5 years, and it's been the same for 5 years, then you know the issue is not just about working harder. There's something else that is not working. Right? We can't just sit there and say, oh, this year didn't work, so let's just run harder next year. No. Look back at the last 5 years. And if you see 5 years a trend that everything keeps getting worse and worse or staying the same, you can't just work harder. You have to change. Right? Like, for instance, I had a good talk with someone about their YouTube channel. Right? And this channel has a lot of subscribers for a beginning channel, a ton of subscribers. Like, it's way more than I had at that time. However, the funny thing was they didn't have many watch hours. Like, they're not even monetized, but they're like 3.5 thousand subscribers, but they haven't reached 4,000 watch hours in a year, which is really weird because you usually hit your watch hours before you hit your subscribers. but they have 3.5, excuse me, which means that they have enough subscribers. But in a given year, there's not enough people watching. So this is a different issue. So think about this. If we just look at the last year, say, oh, hey, we got subscribers, but we haven't reached the watch hours. Okay, let's work harder. It doesn't work. It means no one is watching. It's just subscribers. Then you have to look at that and say, okay, what do I need to change? Right? Like, for instance, someone can say like, oh, I'm bringing people in, but they're not watching long enough. They're not staying, right? How are we going to fix this? And this is where we need to analyze the information of what is happening. That's why we need analytics for our churches too, to understand where we're at and how we need to move for the future, right? So, yeah, those are just a couple of things that I've been thinking about. It is Thursday. Hope you guys have enjoyed this first segment. Oh yeah, by the way, just wanted to put in another plug for Kiara and Erica. They started the podcast called the Absolute Faith Within podcast on Spotify. Here is another quick audio, and I really want to get more of our podcasts out there. The more out there, the better. And I would say is in the beginning, listen to, in the long run, listen to it because you like to listen to it, right? Give suggestions and feedback, also support. And sometimes you could just, if it's something that you may not, that doesn't really interest you, it's okay. All you need to do is turn it on softly and turn it on while you're doing your work and this and that, right? So your mind can be on different things too, but it's something where it's going to be something beneficial for the future, and I think it's something that we need to support a lot more. So let me play Kiara and Erica, and they are going to kind of do another plug for their podcast.
Hi, Pastor Sky. Thank you for having us again and supporting our podcast. And thank you to all the listeners for tuning in. Here's a little refresh for anyone who's new. I'm Erica Binauhan
and Kiara Williams,
and we recently started a podcast called Absolute Faith Within.
Our podcast explores our personal faith journeys, discovering how faith inspires and empowers us. Whether you're searching for a friend, advice, faith-based content, or a genuine connection, this podcast will be sure to help you develop absolute faith within.
And here's a little preview of our episodes. So for episode 2, we did discuss the importance of our values, we defined them, and how it helped us to grow as a person and in our faith. So we reflected on what our personal North Stars is and how our values have evolved over time.
Episode 3 delved into the profound influence our thoughts have over our future. We dove into the intricate workings of our thoughts and how they shape our lives. In particular, we examined the neuroscience of thoughts and the relationship between the heart and thoughts, which we know are connected, and the impact that they have over human beings, both physically and spiritually.
And lastly, our newest episode, we talked about our faith and career, how our faith helped us to navigate with our career and really inspired us to take the career that we're taking right now. We've also shared a lot of experiences on how we're able to overcome challenges in our career with our faith.
If this sounds interesting to you or anyone you know, find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and any other podcast platform that you use at Absolute Faith Within, and you can find us on social as well. We hope to hear you soon. All right.
Bye.
Okay, so I hope you guys really enjoyed that. If you guys have the chance, go ahead, check out on Spotify. That's Absolute Faith Within podcast, and it's something I hope that you guys will really, really enjoy. Okay, so that's the end of today's segment 1. We do have the QNA Thursday. Tons of questions today, so we'll take a look at this. So before we get into that, let's get into the first music break of the day. Okay, so let's get into today's Q&A Thursday. Today, tons of questions, all right? So tons of questions, and I hope that these questions will be things that you guys can gain a lot from. Some of these questions you might have heard in the past, but that's okay because a lot of times some people haven't heard those questions yet, but just to have them all in one place is actually pretty good too. Okay, so first let's get into the first question, which is an interesting one. I haven't heard this question before, but the question was about the picture of Jesus. Remember, that kind of fuzzy picture taken by Sunstein? And the question is, how was that picture taken? And can a physical camera take pictures of spirits in the first place? And, what was the story behind it? So I heard several different versions of the story, but they're very, very similar. It's just different details. So I would say the general thing is Sunstein really, really wanted a picture of, Jesus. Okay? So I'm not sure if there was a 40-day prayer condition or not, but he prayed for it. So as he's walking in the streets, he all of a sudden heard a voice saying, "Take a picture." And there was a dark alley. And what he did was he took a picture of the dark alley. And it's not like this photo just popped up. It's actually inside the photo. You can't see it like just by looking at it. You would have to zoom in to find that part of the picture of Jesus. You have to find it like that, right? So Sunstein was inspired to take a picture in a dark alley. And, you didn't see it in the beginning, but if you zoomed in the picture, you can see that, this is Jesus, and Jesus told him, "This is my picture," kind of thing, right? So here's the thing. Can a physical camera take pictures of spirits in the first place? And the answer is yes and no. It's debatable, right? But what we do know is in the physical world, there is a field of photography called spirit or ghost photography. It's an actual field. And in this field, people will change settings and they'll try to get a different spectrum that they can find and see other spirits at that time. Okay? Like inside of a picture and stuff. And I'm sure some of you have seen those ghost pictures and you're not sure if it's real or not. But a lot of these have been, gone through like forensics, and it's like, it's a real picture, and they can't really figure out where the shape of that ghost came from, kind of thing, right? So there is an actual field of photography called spirit or ghost photography. And it's debatable, meaning those who believe in ghosts will say it's real, right? Those who believe in spirits say it's real, and those that don't will say it's fake and it's just something that the camera caught and it's just by mistake, kind of thing, right? What I would tell you is this. If we could really catch the picture of the spirit, like literally the real spirit, then no one's taken a picture. Why? Because we know that, Sunstein always says like, guess what? Jesus' spirit is 3 meters tall. Jesus' spirit is this beautiful, kind of thing, right? So even when you look at the picture of Jesus' spirit or Jesus is giving us a picture of something that can only be done at the level of the earth. Like you're not going to be able to take a picture of the real spirit itself, right? So it's Jesus doing his best to give us something that fits our level to the limitations that this world actually has. So is it really the picture of the Spirit? And the answer is absolutely not, because we all know that Jesus' Spirit doesn't look like that literally, right? So here's a funny thing. When I was in England, Pioneer Church over there's a newcomer that saw that picture and they thought it was Osama bin Laden. They did. They thought it was Osama bin Laden. We were all laughing, but it's a picture of Jesus. It's a little bit fuzzy too. So when you think about this, you need to understand that what we're taking of the spiritual world, it's something that is only what the physical world can capture of the spiritual things. So that's why the real question comes in is, if we can catch a picture like this, so he takes a picture and Jesus tells him, "That's my picture," then we know that someone who is like Jesus or God, someone divine, can they do that? The answer is absolutely. Like, can they make it just appear out of nowhere? And the answer, I think for us, is when you look at that picture, it's quite amazing that if you can zoom into a picture and you can find that picture inside a picture of a dark alley. Wouldn't you say? So, And it clearly looks like a person. It clearly looks like a Middle Eastern man or the Jesus that we know, right? It doesn't look like, it's not just like some blob, like a cloud in the sky, or like, hey, look, it looks like a teacup with a cup and it's pouring out. It's like, it's not, when you look at it even like a cloud, the cloud's not going to be so detailed, but the shape is there, right? So that's how I would answer that question. And like I said, it's debatable depending on, do you believe in spirits or not? Okay. The second question is very interesting too. It says, how can you explain the mechanism of when the spirit suffers pain and the body shows wounds? Okay. So, what are the mechanics behind it? So the mechanics behind it, I can't really explain to you because Sunsim has never explained exactly how it happens. But he says that it happens and that it's a phenomenon in also the medical world. So it's something that actually happens. What's it called? It's called post-mortem bruising. So it's a real thing. It's not something where you're like going, oh, I've never seen it before. It happens to some, but not to others. So when you look at investigations on post-mortem bruising, is that bruising of significant sizes can appear after death. And the speculation, so remember guys, this is not what is true. This is what they speculate. So in the physical realm, they speculate generally on conditions for a generation of postmortem bruising. Additionally, like they kind of speculate how it happens, like the blood clots or the blood reaches a certain area and then it comes up as a bruise. And they say that postmortem bruising is, it's something where it's kind of a sign that someone has died, right? Because you get it after you die. Sometimes 3-4 hours after, you'll have these bruisings come out, right? So it's quite interesting, but it is a real thing. So the question that we have to bring to ourselves, which actually has to do more with faith, right? It has to do way more with faith. Because spirits getting beaten, right? Or whatnot, and we're bruising in the body. Okay? So how does the mechanics of it work? And to be honest, like I said, Sunsi's never talked about it, but he says that's what happens. So the real issue comes in is it's a matter of, if you're a person of faith, knowing the spiritual realm and understanding it well, then it's either whether you believe in this or not, whether you have faith in spiritual things happening or not, right? Can spiritual things lead to physical bruising? And the answer is apparently it can when it comes to post-mortem, after death. And also, if the opposite happens, for instance, your body does something and it affects your spirit. And your spirit can do something that affects your body. Something when it comes to bruising and such, I'm not sure exactly how it's going to happen, but what we do know is that the situation and circumstance of post-mortem bruising is very particular to your body has to die. Like you're not seeing it in a regular situation where you're alive and let's just say a demon beats your spirit and all of a sudden it starts bruising on your body. It's something that happens in a very specific situation after your body has died, right? So when you think about it this way, you're like, oh, okay, that's something that we have to understand and say, yeah, you know what? We don't have the answer to it. We don't have the actual mechanics to it. All we know is the result, which means we know something happens. Doctors in the physical realm will speculate. Remember, it's not absolute. They speculate something. And then us who have faith and who are spiritual will also say, no, this is what happens. And I can say it's also possible that both happens. It's possible, right? So it's something that I do think we have to, we can't just leave it out and say that, well, if you can't prove the mechanics, then it can't be real. Well, what about before we prove the mechanics of air, like oxygen and CO2? Does that mean it doesn't exist just because we don't know the mechanics behind it? No, it's like we know there's something there. We know we're breathing in something, and we know we're breathing out something. We do know it. That's the result. We just don't know exactly how it happens, and we'll find out later as time goes on. But we do know the result of it. We're in a world where faith is required, where we can't get 100% absolute proof, right? There's so many things we don't know 100%. And the only thing we can go by is the evidence, is the result that it shows, right? So that's how I would bring up this one here too. Like those are two things that are very interesting, but I wouldn't say those two things are not even solid things to say, oh, this is true or this is not. Like this history is wrong or good, whatever it is, right? Like those things are very, very, like I would base it on more solid things like the word and Sunseem's actions and stuff like that too. Third question is about 1 Chronicles chapter 17:13. God said Solomon will be my son. Why does God call him son in the Old Testament domain of a servant? Okay, so the thing you need to know in the Bible is the term son. There is two different types of sons. There is the S-O-N with the big S, who Jesus is the Son of God, right? The literal, like, Son of God. And then there is the small S-O-N. And there's two meanings to it, okay? So think about this. If you look at like Jeremiah chapter 23, verse 5, it says that the Messiah is the son of David, okay? So my question to you is, does that mean Jesus is literally the son of David? Because we do know that David's son is like Absalom and Solomon and others, right? So what are you going to take that literally too? That if the Messiah is the son of David, what does that actually mean to be the son of David? It just means he comes from the lineage of David, right? Does that mean that Jesus is literally the son of David? And the answer is we 100% know that's not true. He's literally the son of Joseph, son of Mary. Right? So you have to understand the word son is used in two different ways. One is referring to literally the Son of God, and one is referring to the lineage, right? It's referring to God, like to say Son of Man, we can look at the lineage that stemmed from Adam to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob as the Son of Man, which were many of the prophets in the Old Testament were called Son of Man, right? It's not talking about the relationship with God of the Old Testament and New Testament times. So that's just something you have to clearly understand the difference between the two when it comes to sons. Okay. Next question is, Sunseem said that God never repeats, but I'm confused when we hear the same continuous things taught every week in the message, and also like Elijah coming back in spirit, and then talking about. How should we understand this that God does not repeat? Okay, so I actually need a little bit more, I need more context, right? What is the context of what Sunseem was saying, right? Because let me tell you this, in the Bible, the Bible tells us to change, right? God tells us, God's like, change, you got to change, right? You got to change. But then he's like, oh, you should never change. So there's like two different types of, there's change and don't change in the Bible. But the context is different. When God tells us to change, to become a new creation, that's because he wants us to come from bad to good, to change our life from the bad to the good stuff, right? But when he says never changing, he says don't ever change. He's like, don't change your heart. Once you have that heart to love God, once you have that heart to just be with God, then you should not change. So for me, when I hear a question is, well, Sunseem said don't change, but then he's repeating things all the time, whatever, right? Or God never repeats. But I'm like, let's take a look at the context. So I definitely need more context in it because the Bible has many parts where it says two opposing ideas, like completely against each other, but the context is completely different. So that's why I would bring that up as like, yeah, I need more context on this because there are many instances in the Bible where it's like that, but the context is much different. Let's move into question number 5. When I hear the word telling about how the people who left Providence suffer in the bad spiritual world and almost impossible to come back to Providence, nor to the New Testament Christianity, it makes me feel scared and I fear more than love God, who seems to bind us to Providence by fear or the fear of hell. How can I understand this as love of God? Also, why is it almost impossible to come back to Providence nor to New Testament Christianity? Okay, so here's a couple questions inside this. So there's a lot of things happening when it comes to, especially in the last year, tons of like, this is how scary it is, these people are going to have a hard time coming back and stuff, okay? So let me tell you this. Number one is fear is not a bad thing. There's actually two types of fear. There's a healthy fear and unhealthy fear in everything that we do. There is a healthy fear, right? But when that fear reaches a point and goes over a limit, then it kind of it changes the way you act and the way that you think. You basically crossed a line of fear. So let me tell you this. What's a healthy fear? Well, when you're married, let's say you get married, you don't fear hurting your wife or your husband. And yeah, because of that fear, there's certain things you will not do, right? Because you're like, I don't want to hurt my wife. I'm afraid that I'm going to hurt my wife by doing this thing here. I'm not going to do it. Is that unhealthy? No. It's because you love them. You love them so much you don't want to hurt them. You have that fear of hurting them. And of course, with love, even with love, there is a healthy fear. Now, the question I give to you is, well, is fear really healthy? The answer is yeah, because let me ask you this question. Is there ever a time when you have zero fear? Like zero fear? Even when I play sports, when we had the volleyball tournament like a couple of weeks ago, there is a fear of making mistakes. There's a fear of making a mistake, missing a serve, having a bad set, whatever it is. But that's what also makes it exciting. An athlete who has an unhealthy amount of fear is someone who gets paralyzed and they cannot perform properly because of that fear. Healthy fear is when you're an athlete, you have some fear, but you're like, I can do this, come on, and you focus, and you have a little tension in your heart, but the fear does not overtake you. See, think about this. When God says he's going to judge, you know you have unhealthy fear if you've done nothing wrong, but you still fear. That's kind of weird, right? That means you reached an unhealthy level of fear. So if you fear every time you hear that God is going to judge, that's really unhealthy. That means that even the righteous will live in fear because they never know, even if they do what is right. People have to fear in some way, a healthy fear. As Sunseed says, those who did not evangelize will be judged. And the answer is, if you've evangelized, then why would you fear about getting judged? It makes no sense. That's really unhealthy. This is not about understanding why God talks about these things it's all about understanding the love of God, right? Now, if I look at love in general, is love only good things? Or does love also have consequences? Or does love also have suffering, hurt, and pain? So if your husband or wife cheats on you, there's no suffering, there's no pain, there's nothing negative that comes from that, there's no consequence. That they'll come back to you and say, oh, I cheated on you. You'll be like, oh, okay, that's cool, I'll just stay with you. Yeah, you betrayed me? Yep, nothing wrong. Really? Like, wouldn't you say that if you really love someone, you'd be that much more hurt? Right? Love has consequences. There's negative parts to love too. If you love, then you've opened your heart to becoming more hurt. You're more sensitive. So let me ask you this question. First is, you're going to leave Providence? Is that something that's in your mind? So if you're someone that says, no, I'm not going to leave Providence, then why would you feel like, oh my gosh, I'm so scared because if I leave Providence, I'm going to go to hell? And guess what? Do you think that that's something we don't know? Really? You didn't know that if you leave Jesus, you're going to go to hell? Like even in Christianity, that is well known, right? If you're someone where leaving Providence is not even on your mind, it doesn't matter. What it's like, oh yeah, people who leave are like that. And you'd be like, of course I know that. If you betray God, of course. That's nonsense to think that you wouldn't know that. There's no need for you to fear because you haven't done anything to that level to be separated from God. And if you have an unhealthy fear, it'll start making you think about those things that are unreasonable. Like, unreasonable is this, oh no, any sin will make God completely separate from me and I can never come back. No way. We know that in Providence that there are levels of sin too. We know it. Luke chapter 12 verse 10 basically says that there's an unforgivable sin. Hebrews chapter 6 verse 4 through 6, exact same thing, unforgivable sin. And then you go to 1 John chapter 5 and it talks about sins that don't lead to death. There are levels of it. What Sunseed is talking about in the message is betrayal. Have you betrayed? Are you going to betray? Like if you're thinking about it, that's something completely different. And I think you should think about the consequence. But if you're not even in that area, there shouldn't be this, oh, I'm so scared, I don't want to go to hell. No, there's no need for that. You can't let your heart and mind get into an unhealthy fear. It'll completely ruin you. The love of God is true love. It can be the most amazing and it can be the most terrible consequence at the same time. Why? The more you love, the more sensitive you are to joy and pain from that person, from the counterpart. That's part of love. You know, one thing that might be a huge issue is that sometimes we think too much about ourselves, but forget to think about God. What does that mean? So here we are, we're not, we know that in our hands, we're not leaving providence. We're not thinking all these negative things, but then we're thinking too much of ourselves. And we're like, oh my gosh, this is too scary. But when God is opening his heart to us and saying, this is how much pain I'm going through right now, just to know that they're going through this, that they can't come back. But instead, we're only thinking about ourselves and we become fearful. Impossible to come back? I think that's reasonable. It's not. He didn't say it was impossible. He says it's very hard to come back. It's almost impossible. Why? Think about this. That's just human nature. To repent for something that bad, right? To come back and show face and say, I'm so sorry for taking out this many people, to overcome your own guilt, right? To admit that you were wrong. That's hard for human beings, especially it depends on how far you went. It's even the same with two human beings. The more you hurt someone, you want to say sorry. You got to say sorry early because when you start hurting them way too much, you feel too bad. You can't even show your face to that person. Imagine you're someone that took out 10 people in Providence. You let Satan use you to take 100 people out. It's not easy for someone to turn back from doing something that bad. This is regular, normal psychology. If you cheat on your husband and wife, how easy is it to come back and truly repent and to admit it? Most people won't admit it until the husband or wife finds out. They don't repent first. Can you imagine the guilt? The guilt is too powerful and it's too hard to come back. It's very difficult. And it's not just you that has to overcome yourself to come back and repent. Also, God has to get over it too. You can't think to yourself that God has no emotion and God is just like, oh yeah, that just glanced off me. Yeah, that doesn't hurt me at all. No, God hurts. God is a God of emotions, right? Look at the Bible. There's emotions from God all the time. The problem is when you think that God has no emotion, that they can't get over it. Well, that's why God gives a period of time for people to repent. God allows people to come back, right? But they can't just come back. They have to come back. They have to repent. They have to do everything in their power to repent to God. You know, even for us too. Do you think that if your husband or wife cheats on you, that you'll take them back right away, or do you need time to heal? Remember, it takes two people for restoration to happen. It's not just one. So there's a lot of things that can go into this more than just, oh, I'm so scared. I think there's a lot of things that people are missing for them to reach that point that all they can think about is, I'm scared to go to hell. What difference would it make if you're not leaving anyways? And if you don't believe it, let's just say you don't even believe in this history anymore, what difference does that make? You don't believe it, so you can just leave comfortably because you don't believe it, right? The only people that are believing are the ones that believe in this history. So I would say there's so many different things, avenues you can go in to understand what that actually means. And because a lot of people don't really think about it, they only think it very linear, just one thing. Hey, this sounds bad, so now I'm scared. Oh no. Like they're just very, very linear. You have to think about multiple different avenues of explanations for this because there's so many different reasons why people are afraid. Some people are afraid because they have sinned. Some people are afraid because they're about to leave. Some people are afraid just because they have an unhealthy fear. They had trauma in the past. Some people are leaving because, there's so many different reasons that come in besides that. And people do have to look at themselves too. And if they don't, they end up hurting themselves more than helping. Next question. Question number 6. Who is the groom? In the New Testament, the Holy Son and Jesus' position are both Son and God is Father. Very, very simple. But now if we look at the Trinity together with Jesus and Sonship, who is the body of the Trinity on earth, as the groom, it's confusing when Sonship becomes the bride before the Trinity in the spiritual world. All right, so how can we understand Sonship appearing in the Word, sometimes as groom and sometimes as bride? Very, very easy. This was explained a long, long time ago, right? So Sonship is a human being. He's someone on this earth. Sonship is not God. He is not the Holy Spirit. He is not the Holy Son. He is not Jesus. He is not part of the Holy Trinity, right? And because he's not part of the Holy Trinity, he's not the one that actually saves. Sunseem needs to be saved too, right? It's just like all of us. And that's why as humanity, before the Holy Trinity, we all need to be saved, where God is the bridegroom and we are all the brides. Okay? Now, when it comes to the one that God has sent, the Messiah, or the one that God uses, what's happening here is this person becomes the body for that time period. Okay? Which means that this person is also representing God to the people. This is why even at the time of Moses, people thought that Moses was God, right? At the time of Jesus, they're thinking Jesus is literally God because he's the one that God is working through. The word comes through this person. All the miracles and power comes through that person, right? So when it comes to all of humanity before the Holy Trinity, we all need to be saved, and we're all brides to God. When it comes to us on the earth, the one that God sends, the one that is the man of mission, they are representing the Holy Trinity, and that's why they come as the bridegroom on the earth. In the heavens, they're not. On the earth, they are the bridegroom. This is why Moses was seen as divine and Jesus was seen as divine and worshipped, right? Because they are the body of the Holy Trinity on the earth, right? So that's the two different views you're looking from. Right, so that was explained a while back too, and I talked about it last year too. Question number 7. I want to hear detailed explanation as to why Sunseem must take up the cross again to atone for the sins of mankind, when Jesus should have taken up the cross and atoned for sins of all mankind forever. Okay? All right, so that is true. Did Jesus atone for our sins forever? Absolutely. But when you guys learned the predestination lesson, there's a specific sin. The specific sin that would destroy everyone is to kill or to go against the one that God has sent, the Messiah, right? So remember, Jesus comes as a representative of the entire New Testament time for people who are children of God. So when Jesus took up the cross, what's he doing? He's dying for our sins, right? So whoever, he dies for our sins. We repent, we believe in Jesus, and what happens next is we become children of God forever. So this rule will never change. Jesus died for our sins so that we can become children of God. And this statement will hold true forever. Anyone who believes as Jesus, as the Son of God, as the Messiah, 100% died on the cross, died for my sins, you will always be, if you believe in him, you'll always be a son. So that's true. So remember, two things can be true at the same time, because now it is the new time period one level up. And once again, the people of the time period have made a grave sin of going against the one that God has sent, going against the Savior, right? And since the man of mission has come on the earth, there is a new great sin that has come upon the people for this level as being brides. The difference between dying on the cross is not about sin in general itself. It is about the level of the time period. Remember, Jesus dies for the time period forever and ever, and whoever believes in Jesus as the Son of God will always remain a son, and they will never die. That is 100% true, but they will remain as children of God. In the same way, in the new time period, complete Testament history time too, it's also doing the exact same thing. Is those who believe in the one that God has sent, once again, when they die on the cross, because of that death on the cross, he pays for the sins so that we can become brides. And that's why you'll have two atonements, but they're for completely different levels, right? It's almost like one of the sins that, imagine you're paying for like swimming lessons, right? And, this person can say to you, hey, as long as you follow me, you will always pass the orange level. So you take the class, and no matter what happens, you'll always pass orange level. But then there's another teacher who's doing the white level, which is the higher level. And they're going to say like, hey, guess what? Hey, you follow me, you'll always pass the white level. Do you know what I mean? So like they're two different things that are completely that are happening at the exact same time, but they're two different levels. One is paying for the orange and one is paying for the white. But both of them can still hold true to their statement of orange, you'll always pass orange. And the other one, white, you'll always pass white. Therefore, two different time periods. One is for children, one is for brides. Both are true because they're different levels. Question number 8. This is the last one, I think. Oh, there's one more after this. In the April 3rd Wednesday message, among the spirits of the Old Testament who waited for the Messiah in the spiritual world, who believed when Jesus the Messiah came and became New Testament level forming spirits, they received the New Testament children level salvation and went to that heaven. Almost all of the Old Testament prophets like Moses, Elijah, and others came to the New Testament domain. They found out and came because Jesus carried out God's history for 2,000 years. Okay. The wedding banquet is held for 1,000 years with the spirits who came from the spiritual world and those who came from the physical world. When time comes, those spirits will rapture and continue to go to the golden heaven. Question. There wouldn't be Old Testament, New Testament, complete Testament heaven anymore, right? If everyone in any time period can go to the golden city heaven later in the spiritual world, how should we testify for the special blessing only? Okay, so, there's more questions, sorry. So there is Old Testament, New Testament, complete Testament. So the one thing we know 100% is that everyone is saved according to their level, but no matter what, in order for you to even get into heaven, you need to believe in Jesus and you need to believe in the man of mission. You do. So it doesn't mean that all of a sudden that you're all of a sudden going to raise your level, like all of a sudden that you can go from Old Testament, then you die as an Old Testament servant. But even people in the Old Testament still have to believe in Jesus, listen to the word, right? And then their spirits begin to form. Why? Because once you hear the new words of the time period, your spirits change. They're no longer, what do you call those? From forming spirits to, what was it? Living spirits? And then divine. Oh, what was the other one? Spirit formed, I forget what the 3 levels. What I remember constantly in my head is always formed, living, divine, right? But there's always going to be a clear difference between the 3 different levels, right? So you will go to the level that you are from. I think the only thing that might be an exception, and I'll have to check into this, is the time of the rapture. That's the only one that I would have to double check and think about, because a rapture is a very special time and not everyone's going to rapture. Yeah, but generally speaking, not everyone's going to reach at the time of the rapture. So we'll say generally speaking, you're going to be split into Old, New Testament, and Complete Testament. You will be. And then even in the Complete Testament, you're split into those that rapture, that go to the core central heaven where the Holy Trinity resides. And then there's those that live outside of it too, or those that didn't rapture. So, So it is different. There should be very different, distinct levels when it comes to that. Wow, there's a lot of, yeah. All right, next question. What is the clear difference between father and son relationship and groom and bride relationship in reality? Children who can grow and understand parents' hearts, whom parents can rely on? I am not sure what this means. There's children who can grow and understand parents' heart, whom parents can rely on. Okay. Children can do spiritual love to bear spiritual children by evangelism. So the clear difference between father and son relationship and groom and bride, just look at it in reality. When you're father and son, you will not be lovers. You will not know everything. The father will take the wife into the bedroom, but will not take the children. There's a clear difference in the level of... There's a clear difference in the level. Very, very clear difference. So you have to look at it from the physical point of view to understand the spiritual. Children can grow and understand the parent's heart when they become parents, right? Generally speaking, when you become a parent, you can absolutely understand your parents and say, oh my gosh, I understand my parents even more deeply because now you become a parent, you went through all the difficulties, right? So that's how children can normally... in general circumstances, can grow and understand the parent's heart because they became a parent, right? And children can do spiritual love to bear spiritual children by evangelism. True, but at what level? You can be someone at the child level and you can still evangelize, but you're only bearing children that are children, right? So it is kind of like giving birth and such. But I think the question is a little bit vague. The question is very, very, very vague because there is if you look physically speaking, there is an absolute clear difference between father and son and husband and wife. Just looking physically, and you can see that there's going to be a difference in the level of the word that's given, the level of love that's given, the level of blessings that are given too. Question number 10. When Jesus fed the 5,000 people, what is the meaning of fish when bread is the word? Well, fish is also the word, but in this instance, it's the fish is not really important. Okay? So what does this mean? Remember, this is something that we, when it comes to the parables in the Bible, we have to understand that Jesus is focusing on a certain thing. And so Jesus will always take something that is physical and change it to spiritual. Okay? Always change something from physical, change it to spiritual. Right? So that's why, excuse me one second. That's why when you have like the Samaritan, excuse me, when you have the Samaritan woman by the well, what happens? He's taking a literal physical situation. There's physical water in front of him. He's asking for physical water, but then through the physical situation, he's helping someone learn the spiritual. You know what I mean? So even Sunseem too, he'll take a physical situation playing soccer, and through that one instance, he'll explain one thing. He'll talk about shooting, right? But guess what? In soccer, there's also passing, there's also a lob pass, there's a straight pass, a square pass, there's crosses. Like there's so many different, more different aspects about soccer, but he'll be very focused on one aspect of soccer, like shooting, and he'll teach something spiritual through shooting, right? In the same way, Jesus was always like, oh yeah, you see that farmer over there? Watch this. And then through that one experience, that physical thing, he'll help people to understand the spiritual. Even when it came to the loaves, yeah, he had like 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. And what Jesus does, he takes the spiritual, and what does he do? He teaches what is, he takes the physical, and through the physical teaches what is spiritual. Right? So that's why even then, the fish is not the issue. What Jesus is teaching at that time is through the bread, right? Through the bread. He says, I am the bread that came down from heaven. So we always have to understand is the way that Jesus speaks is always through the physical situation, then teaches the spiritual. And then when we realize, we're like, oh, okay, that makes a little bit more sense to me now, right? So even in the instances like the same thing with the Garden of Eden, people are like, well, what about the other trees? That's not the point. The point is he's talking about a garden, and in the garden there's 2 very, very special trees in the middle. And he's focused on those. And he's teaching through those trees. But it's us that are like, wait. Does that mean we can eat from any other tree? Which means we can have like sexual relations with anyone except those 2? And that's when we kind of go very humanistic thinking, right? So it's the way Jesus speaks all throughout the New Testament, takes a physical situation, takes one thing out of it, and then explains, right? So that's how I would definitely teach about that too. All right? So yeah, I mean, there's so many questions that my nose is running like crazy. Either way. Wow. All right. So there it is, guys. That is Q&A. There's 11 questions. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And those of you who gave the questions, those 2 questions that I said I needed more context, and the other one, I wasn't sure exactly what you're asking. You guys can rewrite it to me, and then I'll definitely explain it to you guys after that. Okay? So before we get to the final break, let's get into the last music break of the day.
To live with God in my heart. The tears you shed pray all night long. Your love and light at the break of dawn. The days when you were gone, your words stay here in my heart. I'll hold on to you tightly, Lord. Your word is your love, I'm not alone. Now even if this dark world is frightening, wind and waves and thunders crashing, no matter what, our love will not change. You're with me and I'm with you. I will always, always love you, no matter if the world forsakes you. From all the love and miracles through you, I've witnessed the truth. I'll fly high with you. I will never be strong, to live with God in my heart. I will not waver to wrong thoughts. I'll stay right here where I belong. You suffered all along. Your wounds lie deep in my heart. We'll guard you, Lord, till your pain's gone. We'll comfort you, so lie in our arms. Now even if this dark world is frightening, wind and waves and thunders crashing, no matter what, our love will not change. You're with me and I'm with you. I will always, always love you, no matter if the world forsakes you. Your love for God burns so brightly, rise out of ashes, your light will set me free. I'll never leave you, no matter if the world forsakes you. With all the love and blessings from you, I'll never forget all that you've done for me.
Okay, so there it is, guys. That is the final music break of the day. And yeah, it's actually, I didn't realize how much time has flown by. I took a couple breaks in between, and it's already time for me to go to service. All right, so yeah, that was a hefty time of Q&A Thursday. So for time's sake, and for me, I need to get out of here. So we'll do Sermons in the Sky from next week. Okay, so there it is, guys. That is today's Thursday podcast. This is Wednesday for me. I got to go to service, but I hope you guys really enjoyed it. I know it's a bummer that there's no Sermons in the Sky today, but maybe I'll do it for tomorrow instead, or I'll do some snippets of it during the segment 1. Okay, so there it is, guys. That is today's Thursday podcast. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow. It's Friday, guys. We'll see you guys again tomorrow on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, you know. I'm on the Morning Star Drive, you know.